Among the villagers, there was one whose beauty turned heads and sparked whispers, Adaeze. Adaeze was the kind of young woman who made people stop and stare. Her skin glowed like polished ebony, her eyes sparkled with mischief, and her laugh could make even the grumpiest elder smile. But while the villagers admired her charm, they also spoke in hushed tones about her ways. Adaeze is not like the other girls, they would say. She plays with fire. Indeed, Adaeze was known for her adventurous spirit and her string of lovers, a truth she kept hidden behind her radiant smile. She wasn't like the other maidens who dreamed of early marriage and a house full of children. Adaeze wanted freedom, freedom to live, to explore, to enjoy life without the constraints of tradition. But freedom often came at a cost. Late one night, Adaeze crept out of her family's compound and made her way to a small, dimly lit clinic on the outskirts of the village. Her heart pounded as she approached the door, her feet crunching against the dry leaves scattered across the ground. Inside the clinic, Nurse Ejiro waited. Ejiro was a stern woman in her late 40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through people. She had been the village nurse for years, respected for her skill and feared for her silence. The villagers trusted her to treat their illnesses, but they also knew she was a keeper of secrets, secrets that could shatter lives if revealed. Adaeze, Ejiro said as the young woman entered. "You're here again." Adaeze avoided her gaze, her voice trembling. "I have no choice." Ejiro sighed deeply, gesturing for Adaeze to sit. "You're playing a dangerous game, child. How long do you think you can live this way?" "I'll be careful," Adaeze replied, her tone defensive. "You said that the last time," Ejiro retorted, her voice sharp. She prepared her tools with practiced efficiency, her movements precise and unyielding. "This is the third time you've come to me. It's not just your life you're risking, it's your future. One day, this will catch up with you." Adaeze said nothing. She lay back on the examination table, staring at the ceiling as tears slipped from the corners of her eyes. Ejiro worked in silence, her face a mask of professionalism, but her mind churned with frustration. When the procedure was over, Ejiro handed Adaeze a small packet of herbs and a stern warning. "Take these to help your body recover. And, Adaeze, this is the last time." "I mean it." Adaeze nodded but said nothing. She knew she was gambling with her life, but the thought of being tied down to a man or being judged by the village terrified her more than the consequences of her choices. As she left the clinic and walked back to her family's compound under the cover of darkness, Adaeze told herself it was the last time. But deep down, she wasn't sure she could keep that promise. And somewhere in the shadows, fate was already cooking a dish that would soon turn her world upside down. Life in Ekpata village was simple, but Adaeze always felt it was too small for her dreams. She wanted more excitement, more freedom, and maybe even more love than one man could offer. But when she met Chike, everything began to change. Chike was not like the other men she had known. He was tall, strong, and had a confident way about him. He came from Umuaka, a neighboring village known for its wealth and powerful families. Chike owned large farms, had many workers, and was respected by everyone who knew him. From the moment Chike laid eyes on Adaeze, he knew she was the one. He was captivated by her beauty and drawn to her lively spirit. "You are like the sun," he told her one day, "bright and full of life. I want to make you my wife." At first, Adaeze wasn't sure. She had always enjoyed her freedom, but Chike was different. He treated her with kindness and respect, and he had a way of making her feel safe. For the first time, Adaeze thought about settling down. As their relationship grew, Chike made it clear he was serious about her. He visited her family, brought them gifts, and started talking about marriage. Adaeze saw this as her chance to leave her past behind. She wanted to be the perfect bride, the kind of woman Chike would be proud to call his wife. But a part of her was nervous. What if her past caught up with her? What if Chike found out about her secret visits to Nurse Ejiro? She decided to push those thoughts aside. What's done is done, she told herself. No one needs to know. The day Chike proposed, it felt like a dream. He knelt before her in the middle of the village square, holding out a beautiful gold ring. Adaeze, he said, his voice steady and full of love, will you be my wife? Tears filled Adaeze's eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered, I will. The village erupted in cheers, and Adaeze felt a rush of happiness. She promised herself she would never look back. But deep in her heart, a small voice whispered, secrets have a way of coming out. After their engagement, Chike invited Adaeze to visit his family in Umuaka. It was an important tradition in his culture. His family needed to approve of her before the wedding plans could move forward. Adaeze was nervous, but determined to make a good impression. On the day of the visit, Adaeze dressed in her best outfit and styled her hair carefully. She wanted to look perfect for Chike's family. As they traveled to Umuaka, Chike held her hand and reassured her. They'll love you, he said. You're everything I've ever wanted. When they arrived at Chike's family compound, Adaeze was awestruck. The house was large and well-built, with a beautiful garden and a yard filled with busy workers. Chike's siblings and cousins greeted her warmly, but she could sense that everyone was waiting for the opinion of one person, Chike's mother. As they entered the main house, Adaeze's heart stopped. Standing in the center of the living room, smiling warmly, was Nurse Ejiro. This is my mother, Chike said proudly. Mama, meet Adaeze, my fiancé. Adaeze's mouth went dry. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Nurse Ejiro, the woman who knew all her secrets, was Chike's mother. For a moment, she thought she might faint. Ejiro's expression didn't change, but her sharp eyes lingered on Adaeze. Welcome, my dear, she said, her voice calm and polite. She reached out to embrace Adaeze, and as their eyes met, Adaeze felt a silent warning in Ejiro's gaze. Thank you, Mama, Adaeze managed to say, her voice shaking. Throughout the visit, Adaeze couldn't relax. She smiled and answered questions politely, but her mind was racing. What would Ejiro do? Would she tell Chike about her past? After dinner, Ejiro called Adaeze aside. We need to talk, she said quietly. Adaeze followed her to a private room, her heart pounding. Once they were alone, Ejiro spoke in a low, firm voice. I know you're scared, she began. But listen carefully. I won't say anything for now. Chike loves you, and I want him to be happy. But if you want to marry my son, you must leave your past behind. Do you understand me? Yes, Mama, Adaeze whispered, tears in her eyes. This is your chance to start fresh, Ejiro continued. Don't make me regret keeping your secret. Adaeze nodded, unable to speak. As they returned to the living room, Ejiro acted as though nothing had happened. But Adaeze knew her life had just become more complicated than ever. That night, as she and Chike headed back to Adaeze, Adaeze couldn't stop thinking about Ejiro's words. Her secret was safe, for now. But how long would it stay that way? After meeting Chike's family, Adaeze struggled to hide her fear. She had hoped to leave her past behind, but now, the one person who knew her darkest secret was also her future mother-in-law. Back in Adaeze, Adaeze tried to act normal. She smiled and laughed when Chike visited, but inside, she was panicking. She couldn't stop thinking about Nurse Ejiro. What if she told Chike the truth? Would he still love her, or would he end the engagement? Ejiro, on the other hand, said nothing. She returned to her duties in the clinic as if nothing had happened. But whenever Adaeze crossed her path, Ejiro's calm stare reminded her that the secret still hung over her head. One evening, Adaeze decided to visit Ejiro. She couldn't bear the silence anymore. She needed to know what Ejiro was thinking. When Adaeze arrived at the clinic, Ejiro was alone, organizing herbs and tools. She looked up and saw Adaeze standing nervously at the door. Come in, Ejiro said, her tone neutral. Adaeze entered, her hands trembling. Mama, I need to talk to you. Ejiro raised an eyebrow. What is there to talk about? Please, Adaeze begged. I love Chike. I want to marry him. Don't tell him about what happened in the past. Ejiro sighed and sat down. Adaeze, do you think I don't want my son to be happy? Chike loves you, and I've seen how happy you make him. That's why I didn't say anything when you came to my house. Adaeze looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. So, you won't tell him? Ejiro leaned forward, her expression serious. Not for now. But listen to me, Adaeze. If you want this marriage to work, you must change. No more secrets. No more lies. Chike deserves honesty, and so do you. If I see you falling back into your old ways, I won't keep quiet. Adaeze nodded quickly. I promise, Mama. I'll be different. I'll be better. Ejiro stood up and walked toward her. Good. Because if you hurt my son, I won't forgive you. The conversation left Adaeze shaken but determined. She promised herself she would leave her past behind and focus on building a good life with Chike. But as she walked home, she couldn't shake the feeling that her secret was still a ticking time bomb, and Ejiro was the one holding the fuse. Despite her fear, Adaeze managed to move forward with the engagement plans. Chike visited her family more often, bringing gifts and speaking with her parents about the wedding. Adaeze worked hard to present herself as the perfect fiancée, always smiling and supportive. But Adaeze knew she couldn't avoid Ejiro forever. Every time Chike mentioned his mother, Adaze's heart raced. She couldn't tell what Ejiro was thinking. The older woman acted like nothing was wrong, but her occasional sharp glances reminded Adaeze that her secret wasn't safe. The village was buzzing with excitement. Many admired Adaze's luck in finding a wealthy and loving man like Chike. But whispers of her past also floated around. Some villagers speculated about her relationships with other men, though no one had proof. One evening, Chike invited Adaeze to his family home again. Mama wants to talk about the wedding plans, he said. She's very excited to make you part of our family. Adaeze felt a lump in her throat. She nodded and forced a smile, but her palms were sweaty. When they arrived at the compound, Ejiro greeted Adaeze warmly. Welcome, my dear, she said, hugging her. Her voice was kind, but Adaeze could feel the weight of unspoken words between them. The family sat together in the living room, discussing dates, venues, and guest lists. Adaeze answered questions politely, but her mind was elsewhere. Every time Ejiro looked at her, Adaeze felt exposed, like the woman could reveal her secret at any moment. After dinner, Ejiro asked Adaeze to join her in the kitchen. Adaeze hesitated but followed, her heart pounding. I've been watching you, Ejiro said, her tone calm but firm. You're doing well, but remember what I told you. This wedding is not just a celebration. It's the beginning of a new life. You cannot bring your past into my son's home. I understand, Mama, Adaeze said quickly. I've changed. I won't disappoint you or Chike. Ejiro nodded. Good. But understand this, if the truth comes out, it won't be me who tells him. It will be your own actions. Secrets have a way of revealing themselves. The words stayed with Adaeze long after they left the compound. She was determined to prove herself worthy of Chike, but she knew Ejiro would be watching her every move. As the wedding date approached, Adaeze buried herself in preparations, hoping to keep her mind off the looming shadow of her past. But deep down, she knew the battle was far from over. As the wedding preparations continued, Adaze's excitement was mixed with anxiety. She tried to focus on choosing fabrics, food, and decorations for the ceremony, but whispers in the village were becoming harder to ignore. One afternoon, Adaeze overheard two women talking while she was at the market. Chike is lucky to have such a beautiful bride, one said. Lucky? the other woman replied with a scoff. If only he knew her past. Adaeze has been to that clinic more times than I can count. Adaeze froze, her basket of vegetables clutched tightly in her hands. She didn't turn around, but her heart raced. The women's voices faded as they walked away, but their words echoed in her mind. That evening, Chike came to visit her at her family's home. He seemed quieter than usual, his warm smile replaced by a serious expression. Is something wrong? Adaeze asked, trying to sound casual. I heard something today, Chike said, sitting down beside her. Some people in the village are talking about you. They're saying things about your past. Adaeze's stomach dropped. She tried to stay calm. People always talk, Chike. You know how villagers are. They make up stories when they see someone happy. Chike studied her face, his eyes searching for the truth. Adaeze, if there's something I should know, you need to tell me now. I don't care what it is, I just don't want to hear it from someone else. Adaeze's throat tightened. She wanted to confess, to clear the air, but fear held her back. What if he left her? What if everything fell apart? There's nothing to tell, she said finally, forcing a smile. I promise, Chike, I'm ready to build a future with you. Chike sighed, still looking unsure. I love you, Adaeze. But love has to be built on trust. If there's anything you're hiding, it will come out eventually. Adaeze nodded, her heart heavy with guilt. I understand. There's nothing to hide. As Chike left that night, Adaeze sat alone, thinking about the gossip and the lies she was living. She knew Ejiro was right, secrets didn't stay buried forever. She resolved to do everything she could to keep the past from ruining her future. But deep down, she feared it was only a matter of time before the truth came to light. Days turned into weeks, and the wedding date drew closer. The village buzzed with excitement, and Adaeze's family worked tirelessly to prepare for the big day. But Adaeze's nerves only grew worse. She couldn't escape the weight of her secret or the whispers that seemed to follow her wherever she went. One evening, Chike's younger sister, Amara, came to visit Adaeze. Amara was known for her curiosity, and she often asked questions no one else dared to. Adaeze, Amara began after they exchanged greetings, some people in the village have been saying things about you. I don't believe them, but I want to hear it from you. Is there any truth to these rumors? Adaeze felt her chest tighten. What rumors? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Amara leaned closer, lowering her voice. That you've been to Nurse Ejiro's clinic for things women shouldn't be doing before marriage. Is it true? Adaeze's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table.